I'm going to start right from the very beginning. What is a DTP? What does DTP even stands for? Well, it stands for Doctoral Training Partnership. It's one route to getting a PhD. And its doctoral training partnerships are funded by UKRI, which is UK Research and Innovation, which is a government body. So it's all funded by taxpayers' money. There are a number of different research councils within UKRI. And the research council that funds us is NERC, the Natural Environment Research Council. And essentially, we're a body within the university. We're almost like a sort of a quasi-department in that we admit students, but they actually then will carry out their actual projects within departments such as biology, earth sciences, archaeology, geography, and all the rest. So on the slide here, I've tried to give an idea of the different sort of areas that are contained within a doctoral training partnership. What are the key elements? So one of the most important elements, I think, for most students is the funding. All of our offers that we make to students every year come with a full funding package. And that means your course fees are paid. You get a tax-free stipend, which is equivalent to the UKRI minimum stipend every year. This year, 23 to 24, that's £18,622. And you also get a research grant. It's a single lump sum of £8,000, which, if you have a particularly expensive project, can actually be upgraded to as much as £12,000, but you have to apply for additional money. As well as the funding, a really important point about DTPs is that they admit a cohort of students. So we have, between 16 and 20 students that we admit every year, and they form quite a tightly knit group of friends, and they provide a support network throughout the time that you're carrying out your research degree. So you don't feel isolated, you don't feel alone. You always have a group of people across a range of disciplines. And this is the next fundamental point. Because DTPs are so broad, your cohort will contain students from a wide range of different subjects, and you'll get to know them, and you'll get to talk about each other's subjects, and you'll get to know about different research methods and different research ideas. And that cross-fertilization, as we call it, can really help you when you're building your own project. So that's something that almost happens, bubbles away in the background, but we do try and also foster that during the training program. We have a number of partners that are allied with the program, external partners, all of which you can see on our website. And these can be really helpful in providing additional support, added value to your research project. Things like they can help with finding fieldwork sites, or they might provide additional mentoring, or they might provide additional funding to your project in the form of case, which is something else we'll go into. I should actually say here, this presentation does come with a bit of an acronym warning. There are tons of acronyms associated with PhD studies at DTPs. CASE is one of those. I don't think anyone even remembers what the acronym CASE stands for, but it basically means when a partner adds funding to your project of £1,000 or more per year, and they host you for a period of time when you do an internship, and they co-supervise your project as well. So CASE is something that's very important to NERC. And so when you're developing your project, especially if you're involving a partner, we'd always ask you to think about, can you get that partner to CASE your project by giving you a bit of extra funding. A crucial point about doctoral training partnerships is the word training. So you're funded for 4 years, which is more than most normal funded PhDs. Those would normally be like 3 years or 3.5 years. But DTPs offer 4 years worth of funding. And this is because of the training requirement that students have. So we allocate around about 6 months of training time as part of your PhD. Now, some of that happens in the first term. In fact, probably about 3 months worth of that will happen in the first term. When you join the DTP, you also join the DTC, another acronym. That stands for the Doctoral Training Centre. And that's an actual physical building in which there are several programs like our DTP housed. So there's a BBSRC DTP, which is bioscience and biotechnology. And I won't go into all of them, but there are various others. We're all housed together, and we all offer various training courses which are open to the other DTPs, more or less. All of them are open to other DTPs and CDTs, Centres for Doctoral Training. So in term 1, there's quite a full training programme. It's full-time, 9:30 to 5 p.m, most days of the week. And this will cover topics such as introduction to programming or software carpentry. NERC has a specific NERC-related course, which is called the Earth System. And we also offer numerical methods for those with highly quantitative first degrees. There's statistics courses. You can have MATLAB as well. And so there's quite a wide range of hard skills courses that you can take in the first term. Some of those will be shared with other training programs. We also do a thing called the Grand Challenge Seminars, which is a cross-program event, which starts in the first term, where students will gather together across programs, and they will plan 8 seminars, outward-facing public seminars, to be delivered in term 3, what Oxford calls Trinity term, but it's the 3rd term of your first year. And there'll be 1 a week in the summer term, and they're quite big events. You know, we get world-leading people to come to Oxford and to speak publicly about topics that our students decide, and they plan the events entirely. And that's a really great way of getting to know the students in other programs that are housed within the DTC. And it gives you the opportunity to learn event planning and organising skills, which are really valuable, actually, especially when you're an early careers researcher, because you'll always be lumbered with the job of planning the departmental seminars. You know, I think people always get new arrivals to take on jobs like that. So if you've got previous experience with organising big events like this, that will stand you in really, really good stead. Also in term 1, we offer graduate research seminars, which are actually organised by our students, and those are divided up into 3 streams. So you'll participate in those. So in term 2, the training eases off a lot. There will still be some training. That's more focused towards helping you with developing your projects and writing your project proposal. There'll also be some advanced skills training. I think we have quite a lot of courses that the atmospheric physicists will find useful. But it's I would say front-loaded into the first 4 weeks or so of term. We also have a partner sandpit in term 2, which is a lot of fun. That's 2 days of working with some of our partners on challenge topics that they put forward, and trying to come up with ideas for addressing those challenges, and then pitching those ideas to a panel of the partners. It's a lot more fun than it sounds, believe me. So then after you transfer out to your department to begin your research project in term 3, you will carry on training throughout throughout your time. But you will do this selectively and in a very tailored way to your project. So we hand over the ownership really of your training to you at that point. You can identify courses that you need to take, and you can organize them and go on them. Your research grant, the RTSG that I talked about earlier, Research and Training Support Grant, that is designed to help you pay for your costs of training courses that you might identify, and also for fieldwork costs and conferences and things like that. And the final thing that's really important in DTPs is outreach. It's partly to do with our kind of very renewed focus on EDI, in trying to spread the word and make available this kind of training, this kind of funding to a far more diverse pool of applicants. And this really starts with outreach to schools, trying to get people across the board enthused about environmental research, and the need for people from all walks of life to be invested in protecting our planet and in the future of our planet. So DTPs are really trying to be at the forefront of this kind of outreach. We've been doing some really great stuff. So our students, rather, I should say, have been doing some really amazing and innovative kinds of outreach, which I will let David talk a little bit about in the next session. So I hope that has explained a little bit more about what DTPs are and what they're for. I'm going to stop sharing that slide now and have a little look at the Q&A to see if there are any questions. Are international students allowed? That's an excellent question. Yes, they are. We have funding. I think we can fund up to 30% every year, international students. And you would qualify for the home fees status, but I mean, we would pay the fees for those anyway. So yes, it is worth applying if you're an international student. Is a master's degree a requirement? No, it's not. It can be an advantage, but I would say around about a quarter to a third of our offers every year are made to candidates who only have a bachelor's. And does the DTP provide full tuition for international students? All students on the DTP are treated exactly the same. There's no difference. So yes, you would get the full tuition. Are there full cohort events training in later years? Yes, there are. So we offer advanced courses, usually in Hilary term, and that's term 2 and term 3 every year. Sorry, there are so many Oxford terms I must try and avoid. There are, and one of the things every year that's really good fun is the student conference, which is open across all years. And students all get together and they deliver little short papers on their research. They present to each other. There's a competition, there are prizes, there's a party afterwards. So that's definitely like a whole program event that we run every year. And there are also advanced training courses that we run in term 2 and term 3, which are open to everybody. So that would be things like, the intermediate GIS course, or something called smart modelling strategies or mixed effects models in R. Those are all open across the board. Do we have any specific guarantees for diverse individuals? I'm not sure entirely what that question means, but we certainly will we ask candidates to complete a contextual statement if they feel that we need additional information about their background that would help us to awarded additional points, for example, for someone that maybe had an educational disadvantage or difficulties in their earlier life. We can make extra allowances for those. So we would allow candidates to give us a contextual statement that gave us, and that's kept private to the assessors, that would allow us to kind of award additional points for diverse candidates. Do we choose a department when applying to the DTP? And if so, are we restricted to that department after admission? You apply to a research stream, not to a project or a supervisor or a department. It can usually become quite obvious when you're making an application what department or departments would be relevant to you and to your interests, but you're not actually linked to a department until the point where you really submit your research proposal, and that is at the beginning of the third term. So you're not restricted. When you're offered a place, you're offered that place with funding, and that funding is attached to you, not to any possible supervisor or project that you might have mentioned in your application. So you actually have quite a lot of freedom in the first couple of terms to change your mind. And what departments do participants generally join? Okay, so we have 8 departments in the DTP. You can see a list of these on our website. I can never remember all of them off the top of my head, but we've got archaeology, geography, earth sciences, biology, maths, physics, chemistry, engineering. That's 8. Yeah, that's all 8. So it would usually be one of those. But you could also do a co-supervision, say with another department like materials or computer science or something like that. And we also encourage co-supervisions with external partners. Can the DTP be part-time? Yes, actually, NERC require us to be able to offer part-time PhDs, and we can do that. The only exception would be in term 1. We can't really do term 1 part-time because the training is all, full-time. But if students can actually find the time to attend term 1 full-time, then after that point we can arrange for part-time. Are peer-reviewed publications required? No, they are not. Absolutely not. I don't know where this myth arose that you have to have peer-reviewed publications to get a place, but no, that's absolutely not required. Some students have them, but it's honestly not fair to expect undergraduates to have peer-reviewed publications by the time they finish their degrees. You're on a visa that states that you have no access to public funds. Can you still apply? I would say yes, you can, but I would probably have to check that with our visa office, or we would have to take that away and we would have to double check with the visa office. If you were offered a place, you would apply for a different visa. You would apply for a tier 4 visa, and that would mean that you had student status. So I'm fairly confident that the answer to that would be yes. Are courses in the first 2 semesters mandatory across biology, climate physics, etc., or are they limited to the chosen broad theme? Again, I'm not entirely sure what that means. I think the only course really in the first term that's kind of cross NERC streams would be the Earth system, and all students attend all streams of that because it's an interdisciplinary program. So yeah, we would expect students to attend courses across streams, because yeah, that's how you get to know what's going on in other research streams. Thank you. Thank you very much for the amazing explanation so far. Please, what PhD programs stand a higher chance of getting this DTP scholarship? Each stream in the DTP has an equal number of places, but we have a lot more applicants applying to the biodiversity stream. So in fact, if you're applying to the biodiversity stream, you probably stand a lower chance of getting a place. But that's about as far as it goes. There are equal numbers of places allocated per stream. Is there a fee to apply? And is there a way to waive this? At some point, they are going to abolish the application fee to Oxford. I think this kicks in next year, but that's what they said last year. So as of now, there is a fee to apply. It's £75. There is a way to waive this, and this is done on a case-by-case basis. So if you wanted to waive the application fee, the best way to do that would be to email me directly, and we can manage that on a one-to-one basis. At which point are we required to contact the supervisor? We always advise contacting potential supervisors as part of your research. I would start contacting supervisors now and just talking to them about possible ideas for research collaborations. But you don't actually confirm your supervisor until term 2, term 3, term 2, when you're really writing your research project. Will the stipend for 23-24 be the same as for 24-25? The stipend usually increases each year, so it hasn't remained the same year on year for about the last 15 years, so it will increase every year. Is the DTC the only department to take part in the admissions process? Well, it's the DTP. We're part of the DTC, but it's the DTP that manages the admissions process. But we always get applications reviewed by a departmental reviewer, and I will go into that in more detail in my application process step-by-step presentation, which is a bit later in the day. Is it possible to do internships or academic placements? Yes, and we encourage this, and we can give you extra funding to do this. Does applying too early or right near the deadline affect the application decision? No, it doesn't. We look at all applications once the application deadline is passed. Can the requirement for first class or upper second be alternatively demonstrated by a master's degree? A master's degree will usually trump a bachelor's, but again, sometimes that depends on the individual case. So that's all I can really say specifically about that. But if you have an excellent master's, it's worth applying, even if you've got a 2-2, because that might indicate you're on an upward trajectory. Can I already apply to the DTP if I've already got a supervisor and project? Yes, you can, but you still would have to go through the whole submitting your project proposal, rewriting it, or writing it in your own words. How long does a term last? That's a good question, because for undergraduates in Oxford, it's 8 weeks, but for graduates in Oxford, every term is that 8 weeks plus the vacation afterwards. So term 1 is 3 months. Term 2 is 4 months. Term 3 is 6 months long because it contains the vacation as well. So you don't need a potential supervisor to submit your application, but you should talk to potential supervisors, as I've described. How would you describe DTP students in general compared to traditional DPhil students? Ultimately, you will be a traditional DPhil student, but you will have a class, if you like. You'll have a cohort, a class that you're part of, so you hopefully won't feel isolated, which sub-traditional DPhil students might. Speak a bit more about the option of committing full-time to the first term and part-time thereafter. Not really. We do need you to be full-time in term 1. But once you've done that, you can then apply to us, and and let us know if you want to go 50-50 or how you want to do it, and we can organise that, and we would do that with you one-to-one. Not that many students do take that option, because obviously it lengthens the period of time that you're doing your PhD, but it can be done. Are applicants required to submit a research proposal? No, the statement of purpose is enough. What's the rate of acceptance? Well, we have 16 places or thereabouts, usually about 300 applications or so. And we've got quite a lot more questions popping up, but I'm aware that we are now 1 minute before David's presentation. So I will save this Q&A and go through and see if I can type up some answers to these, or it's quite entirely likely that some of these questions will be answered at a later point in the day.